You have reached Marfoogle TV. We are live in 3, 2.
I'll never go back to sleep. I was living in a dream till they got me out, and now I'll never go back to sleep.
All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. We've got a lot to go into, so let's get into it. Israel and the U.S. withdraw from the talks with Hamas. Now, they went to the meeting, and essentially they're saying that this is just not going to work. They are saying that they will now consider alternative options to bring the hostages home, though it was not clear that negotiations had halted. So they're essentially saying we're going to look at other options of getting those people out of there. Usually, if there's a negotiations team or something going on with any kind of hostage situation, those alternative means usually means, they're blowing up a wall, they are blowing up something, they're blowing up someone, and they're going to physically take them out. What that means for the hostages, I have no clue. But again, I'm sure that everyone that is involved definitely wants it to be, as peaceful and as effective as they possibly can be. They also said that essentially this is not going to go any further, at least with Hamas, and this is going to get the whole wagon going again. We'll talk about this and much, much more on tonight's show when we come back in just a second. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address. All right, so we have a lot more to get into, so let's get into it. Of course, there was a couple seconds, if you're watching the replay, that did get cut out. But again, you should have that if you watch the replay after a few hours. All right, let's get right into it and bring in my co-host / internet brother, Dex James. What is going on? How are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So let's talk about EpiPen. The lawyer of EpiPen is saying that, exactly what we called, that Maxwell will try to make a deal with President Trump.
Exactly. So this is Dershowitz, Alan Dershowitz. He said it is certain an agreement will be made with the claims that because she knows everything. So he's saying that she'll attempt to make a deal with the administration when the government officials visit her in prison, which actually we'll talk about in just a moment. According to them, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche announced he would meet with her in the coming days, and she's going to make a deal with the Department of Justice, according to Alan Dershowitz. That's his opinion. It's not known. We still don't even know what came out of that meeting. But that's the way things are done. They make deals with the mafia, so I'm certain they're going to try to make a deal with her, he said. So it's true. The DOJ does make deals with the mafia. They make deals with everybody. The whole legal system's about deals. Anything you can make a deal or settle to get what you need out of it, they do. So certainly makes sense to see something like this go down. It's exactly what we were talking about yesterday and the day before. We predicted this too.
And a few days before that. So because once they mentioned Maxwell and once, because the list, if Maxwell goes up there and says, oh, well, he's not a part of anything. Oh, no, he's not in the list. We never even had him. Oh, he came once in this and this and this and goes through and states under perjury that, he was never a part of it, then that clears him. And then, of course, she can go, oh, can you also get me a presidential pardon? That's something that could possibly go down. We suggested that. It's not too far-fetched for anybody to come to that conclusion. But again, it's kind of crazy that the exact scenario is popping out. Dex, go ahead.
Well, yeah, and we're also hearing other anecdotes like from I think it's Bannon's interviews that he was doing with him back in the day, which haven't seen the light of day yet. But he said that basically they were buds, but EpiPen said, "Hey, I'm not no longer friends with Trump because he's a crook and because of things that he did." He said he just was very crooked, which seems odd coming from him, right? Of all people, right? So, and then the flip side to that is you also have, this has been documented, this is actually public, that at one point, EpiPen was harassing one of the guests at Mar-a-Lago who was underage. And at that point, Trump kicked him out and banned him from the club. So that was sort of the end of their, whatever relationship they may have had. But some are saying that was the point at which, Trump said, "Hey, I know this guy's not up to any good and I don't want anything to do with him." Who knows if that's true or not? But we do know the kicking out at least has been documented.
Yeah, I mean, and at least it's there for that was something that a lot of people are not bringing up right now, which is kind of crazy because I've seen so many people kind of flip the script in the last 2 weeks. The same people that I never went to any of the get-togethers. I have 4 kids. I couldn't do it, even if I wanted to. But I saw people that went and traveled around the country to follow him. And like within 2 weeks, they read or saw something or saw a couple memes. And then they're like, I'm on the other side now. I don't know what is right and all the BS that's coming out right now. I don't know what's distraction at this point. But what we have to do together, and this is why it helps that there's a few thousand people documenting their opinions on this. When 90% get a gut feeling that something's wrong here, then there usually is. I mean, it's been right time and time again. And the rumors were always there because it's a common sense thought that comes out of a weird scenario. When you make up a fake fictional story, not saying this or any of the other ones, we don't know which ones. But if you say a fictional story and say 90% of it was truth and the 10%'s not, if you have 1,000 people read that story, they're going to be like, wait, that doesn't make sense. And they'll pick out what's wrong. That's what we've done for years. And it has worked. It's not a science. It is absolutely just common sense and multiple minds working together to go, wait, that just doesn't sit right. Why would he do this and then go to this and then have that happen? And I'm being very, very, very general because this is how we have been able to predict the future without a crystal ball. It's a bad B movie, and it's the person always running up the stairs instead of out the door. When the killer is there and there's a car to leave or an upstairs where they will not be able to escape. Dex, go ahead.
Well, 2 things. One, I'd always be leery when you have information that appeals to such a broad mass. And when you go back to thinking about programming and how organizations program information and get people to believe things, this is the golden egg in programming goes, because they've got everybody on both sides of the aisle now wanting the same thing and angry with Trump. So that's one thing you have to consider, sometimes that. And then the other thing, we did say this would happen. We said, hey, if there's a idea that he's doing this as a setup, his setup was to get the Dems to ask for, or his opposing party to ask for and beg for all the files. Well, guess what happened? The Dems in Congress signed it and said, hey, we now have formally requested all the files. They're the ones that asked for it. They're the ones, not just them, but Congress is now getting them all. It's a done deal. They've subpoenaed all of the files.
And look at the timing too. Now they're claiming they found files that essentially incriminate 2 presidents back. We looked at this as, that's too far much of a coincidence. Also, people thought, now that's convenient. You point everybody looking this way, distract from what people were mad about, and get them on this. And then 3 weeks later, nothing ends up coming of it. Nobody gets arrested, no whatever. But what if it's the other way around, where this was the whole plan to get that out, and in turn something else, a book got turned over and they found the right files? I don't know. But what I do know is right now there are major, major shifts happening. And we are the United States. So when we have things this big shift, the entire world will turn over. Dex, go ahead.
This president cares so much about his legacy and his name. And he's at an age right now where he may not be around much longer, right? We don't know how many more years he's got left. So it's not that difficult to think that even if he can't clear and exonerate his name from this immediately, that as soon as he's gone, everyone will just pile onto his name and label him with an EpiPen and this type of behavior, right? So he's got a short amount of time to actually solve this problem, or he's going to lose his legacy that he is so proud of, right?
And that was something that I pointed out early on. Like, if you were an adversary and if you were working with the president is good at doing deals. Whether you hate him or love him, you know that he is good. And people will go, well, look at all those hotels and all those buildings that went bankrupt. If you look at any of these big companies, and I've worked as just the little guy in banking and in credit card processing, and I've known the families that have owned these. I've known the big head honchos. You have to understand, I knew this one family had like 16 different companies, and those companies had like multiple chains. They were liquidating stuff left and right. They had bankruptcies and all these kind of things. That's just how they rolled. So like when people say that that's a failure on his and all this other stuff, I'm like, if he's a billionaire and all of that, has been liquidated, I guess any one of those people that's saying that, if you had $1 billion in the bank, it would be pretty hard to say that you failed even with the bankruptcies. So again, I think it's like this. I think the thing that you would take advantage of with our president is his ego. And I had to, step on eggshells. People got so mad when I said that. So many comments like, oh, he doesn't have an ego. Yeah, he does. He says it himself. His ego would be something where if you put a plate in front of him with something that goes, hey, if you grab this, you're going to look like a hero for everybody, and then have some sort of trick attached to it, that would be your best chance of getting the president. Well, maybe that happened over the years and he fell for it, he grabbed for it or something. Maybe the first term, that's what happened. We don't know. But if you wanted to take him out, you would do something like that, because that, I believe, is his weakness as well. So with this, it is kind of crazy. We talked about this 6, 7, 8 years ago, back when he was in his first term. And it's just so nuts that right now is such a pivotal time, and it's all revolving around him being involved with this or not being involved. The whole rift with Elon, is it all fake? Is it all just for show? So they can essentially have the enemy of my enemy is now my friend type of thing going? I mean, we are truly living in a movie right now, which we're going to get to other stories today that you're going to be like, what the heck? And then Ghislaine Maxwell answered every question from the DOJ officials, the lawyer says, right? So it just, every little thing about this, it absolutely was exactly the scenario we were thinking about happening, and it happened. Ghislaine Maxwell answered every single question put to her by the Department of Justice officials, her attorney has said. David Oscar Marcus briefly spoke to reporters outside of Florida courthouse after the disgraced British socialite was grilled during a meeting with the federal Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. Again, they said Blanche did not address media following the meeting, the Deputy Attorney General later posted. And it says, today I met with Ghislaine Maxwell and I will continue my interview with her tomorrow. The Department of Justice will share additional information about what we learned at an appropriate time. So are they going to come out and say, yeah, she is stating under perjury of law or whatever, we're interviewing? It sounds like this is happening or this happened or this happened. Who knows, maybe she is going to come out with some bombshell and get a presidential pardon because she is coming out with information that's so vital to national security that she gets off of it. What our next prediction after that was, before all of this happened, was within a week, she's going to be goners. But again, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below, and try to be very good, because again, we're already going up against a massive wall right now. Dex, go ahead.
Well, in addition to this, at the same time this is happening, Pam Bondi is out with a medical issue. So you think she'd be here, be part of this, or at least be available. But as this is going down, she is not available. She had to cancel meetings, cancel other things, or we don't know what it is. But
crazy timing. Yeah, the timing of everything is just so on point. It's just nuts. Before we move on, I highly recommend going and getting an EMP shield. And people don't usually listen to a lot of affiliates, or they skip over them. If you're watching the replay, you probably will. I hope you don't, because I honestly think that people should be getting at least the car version so they'll be able to get around, especially if you work far from home. This is a very, very smart device to have on your vehicles, your cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats, generators, anything that you want to keep running after an EMP strike from an adversary, or even a coronal mass ejection from the sun. It can take up to a Carrington level event plus, and still have your device, home, or generator running. So go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. Make sure to use code MARF. You'll not only get $50 off per device, but you will also help our channel at the same time. It's used by agencies like DHS, Air Force, FBI, DOD, the DEMSO team helping protect the Texas grid. It is an incredible product. I would highly, highly, highly recommend that you at least give it a thought, because this also can even turn your whole house into the best surge protector you've ever seen. And so you don't have to keep buying those expensive electronic surge protectors at Fred Meyer or Target or wherever the heck you're getting them. Your entire house will be the surge protector. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP, code MARF. Again, thank you for thinking about it. All right, and then thanks for sharing us out. I see a lot of great people in chat already. Thank you, thank you, thank you, everybody that has popped in. And make sure to drop an M in the chat for your awesome mods. All right, and then Dex, let's talk about the electricity prices. Which,
I mean, look, we just said this. We said it's so funny how we'll say something and then the next day an article comes out about it, right? So look, the average price, and just look at the chart here. The average price per kilowatt hour in the U.S. is now skyrocketing. So according to U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistic data, the average price of electricity per kilowatt hour has risen from 17.9 cents to now 19 cents, an increase of about 6%. Okay. That is absolutely a result of having too much demand. And that demand isn't you and me. That demand is all these data centers that are going everywhere. That demand is a little bit of the heat. Obviously, we have spikes when there's high temperatures. That's part of it, but we should be able to deal with that, and we have over the years. But there is so much money being dumped into building these data centers, and those data centers are just consuming all of the power. And when that power gets consumed, they raise prices. And when they raise prices, we all have to pay for it. So I'm of the opinion they should be charging the data centers double the money for the electricity to offset the cost for the rest of us. But that's not what they're doing. Data centers look for cheap locations where they can find cheap power, and then they plop themselves down and buy all the power there, which then makes everybody who used to have a cheap power bill now have a very expensive power bill. So that's what's happening.
It was 2 days ago, and now the article is out. And we were talking about this in the case that all of the power that the AI, everything that AI brings with it, all of the power that is going to be necessary, these huge data centers that we talked about are going to be essentially protected almost as if they are, in a Terminator movie. That was actually the ex-CEO, I forget what, Schmidt, I think. The ex-CEO of Google actually said that that's what the future is going to look like with these data centers. So it's something that, everybody can see coming. Well, all of that, and that we talked about, if you remember, how now there's no more push for electric cars. Well, that's because we will not be able to actually power the electric cars. If we have everyone in the country driving an electric car and that being powered by their plugins, we're already overwhelmed with our archaic grid. That would drive it over the top. So it is crazy, because we also talked about the solar, everything was that. China essentially has that on lock, and it is a good way to get power, but it's being locked down by China because they have this sort of monopoly on it. All right, and then Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, and on the solar side, I know I made the comment when we were talking about this, how if it weren't for China and we could use solar, it'd be so much cheaper. And a lot of people commented, well, it ruins land. Well, it's true when you put it on your farmlands and stuff, which a lot of people do. But in America, we have something like 200,000 or more square miles of desert space, or actually maybe be more than that. But I ran the numbers on it, and for us to run the entire power of America off of solar, we only need to use 2 to 5% of our entire desert space, not farmlands, not pretty backyards, not rooftops, just 2 to 5%. 2% should actually cover it all. 5% with growth. That's a small amount. It's just a shame that we can't do it because of the fact that it would require us investing heavily in China, and it has a great risk of all of the hacks, and the backdoor access that's in all the solar capability, solar componentry that is all connected to that.
Which is already, they found actual radios in the units, these huge transformers that are as big as a house, or the converters that are essentially taking it from the solar panels and putting into the grid. They have firewalls. They're made so they don't get hacked, right? Because a lot of this stuff is from China. Well, China goes, oh, okay, well, this is a huge building-sized thing. They're not going to take the whole thing apart. Let's put a cellular radio in the middle of it. That's exactly what they said they found just about a month ago, right after Spain said that their entire country went down because of pretty much the exact same thing. They did not say that it was China. They alluded to it, and then the next day the U.S. checks their systems and go, holy crap, we found radios in it. It's like, it was just so predictable. Everything has been predictable for the longest time. All right, and then Trump's AI plan calls for the massive data centers, and here's how it will affect. Dex, you want to go over that?
So he just announced this new plan to boost the artificial intelligence, and the biggest part of it is to build massive data centers everywhere. So this goes right back to the point we were making about the electricity, the fact that they're already building lots of data centers. Well, our president now comes out and has this major move to shift and make sure that we can build massive amount of these data centers for the big tech AI companies like Google, OpenAI, Microsoft, xAI, and all of them. So yeah, this push has come out. Obviously, there's a lot of things specific to it. Some of the companies are going after nuclear and trying to, I think Microsoft or one of them was going to be tapping into 3 Mile Island. Google had previously signed contracts to purchase the multiple small modular reactors. We've covered those maybe a couple years ago. This company had invented these miniaturized nuclear reactors. And then some other players, I think Amazon said they're building a data center in Pennsylvania alongside a nuclear power plant. So they're tapping right into these power sources to gather as much of the power as they can before it can be distributed to everyone else. And obviously they're going to be sucking it all up. And this is a massive, massive investment and a massive build. And we're not in a position to deal with it. We're not in a position to grow our power consumption exponentially.
Yeah, people are in their 9-to-5 bubbles the majority of the time. People are trying to survive. People are trying to afford the inflated freaking groceries. But if you really watch, if you take away all the distractions, if you look at what they're doing right now, they need so much power so fast that it really does kind of shock you what we are doing with AI. We're changing our entire fundamental system right now, and people don't think that there's about to be a war. We are changing the way that the world works. People are now debating whether the president is good or bad. He's doing this big database of everybody. Now they're talking about digital currencies already since 2019. They somehow conveniently took cash out of the country in many places. I mean, if you look, there's 20 machines that will take credit card and one person at an actual checkout that will do cash at most stores. I mean, it's happening. They're getting rid of the penny. They're doing this. All of it's shifting towards a cashless society. Why do we want cashless? Well, we don't want cashless. They want cashless. They want every single transaction to go through a computer because a computer can be searched and archived and they can check every little thing. You can't control people without controlling the money. Money, again, when you have so much of it, when there's these people just have so much they could buy a skyscraper, they don't care about the money anymore. They care about what they could do with the money to buy more power. And going back to the main subject, power is something this is our grid. And now they are just grabbing everything, just consume everything. They're going to build all these nuclear plants. They're doing all of this. For what? Like really think about what they're doing. Everything's about to be put on AI. We are living in the Terminator movie, which a lot say was the prequel to frickin' The Matrix. Wow, do we have a crazy life set out for us. If you are 95 watching this right now, I feel only bad for you, because if in 10 years, I'm sure you would want to see what is about to happen. I hope that I don't walk out on a street and get hit by a car or something, because I honestly want to see how this all plays out. I think we are living in the craziest times, and I'm sure every last generation thought that they were in the craziest times. Down to the end of the Roman Empire, they probably thought, I can't believe I'm going to be alive for the end of the Roman Empire. We're here again, only with crazy sci-fi freaking alien tech, essentially, if you ask somebody from 100 years ago what it was. I mean, we are just in the craziest times. Sully's World, I know, right? Like, and that's the thing. I just said people accuse me of like wanting more. I don't. But isn't there a seed of all of us that the reason why we like these dystopian shows and these things is because it is such a crazy sci-fi, crazy world without all the distractions, without all the cell phones, without all the stuff there. I think there is secretly a little part of us that we don't, it's like a car crash, you know? You don't want to see a car crash. You don't want to see people hurt, but you also don't want to miss it. The rubberneckers, right? You want to see what happened. You want to know what happened. You want to know the update. Heck, you're probably at work and you're trying to look at the news, trying to figure out what the heck ended up happening out of it. That's how it is with this. You know, this is really, really something that all of us are going to get to see. I mean, the AI plans, people just hear AI, and they're thinking Grok, ChatGPT, and talking silly with the thing and having it make stupid pictures. This is going to be integrated into controlling us, people. And the rich are not even going to try to be under the same system. They're trying to get off to Mars to make some sort of uber elite frickin' bunker resort or something. And by the way, guys, I've been moving all this week. You guys already know this, but there's a few people that haven't. I have been fried in the sun almost every day. And I have been working by myself with a box truck using a dolly and ingenuity and close to 40-year-old limbs and joints to move my entire 5-bedroom house into a 3-bedroom house, essentially. So I thank you for your patience, and with my bad reading, pausing, and my brain just basically farting occasionally. So thank you. I really appreciate everybody that's still here with us. All right. And then U.S. birth rates hit all-time low. CDC data shows. Dex, this is so like, we're already living in the dystopian freaking world right now. Look at this. What's up with this?
Well, yeah. I mean, the fertility rate in the U.S. dropped to an all-time low. Fewer than 1.6 children were being born per woman, according to federal data that came out today. So the U.S. was once among only a few developed countries with a rate that ensured each generation had enough children to replace itself, which is 2.1. But now we're at 1.6. So that's been sliding for a while. It's not the first time we've talked about it decreasing, but now it is at an all-time low. It's one of those statistics that lots of countries have started to
Japan.
hit. Yeah, and others. So yeah, it is. It's one of those things that you are either going to see a population decrease in America organically, or you're going to have to see, the importation of people, which, oh, by the way, we just did, like last administration, by the millions, to offset the loss of numbers.
Yeah, and a lot of people didn't talk about that, did they? So, and the other thing too, there's odd things that are happening in our society, specifically men's sperm counts have been going down since 1950, I think, or something. It's gone down 50%. Why? Why do people here in Seattle have the highest, diagnosis rate of, what is it, MS? Like there's certain things here just in the Northwest, they have these just crazy numbers. Why are things like this happening? And it makes you really, really kind of wonder and think, is there something going on behind the scenes? But if you even question it, you're called crazy, right? And as far as this goes, I'm sure it didn't hurt. I didn't help the birth rate that some people that possibly could have had a kid before now cannot, and probably have something blocking it or have something chopping it. Either way, I'm sure that didn't help the birth rate either. And I'm sure the data goes back, it's before that. But I can only imagine where it's going to go now. Go ahead.
Well, and also think about the societal changes, like the fact that it's expensive to have children, the fact that there's a lot of encouragement in society to decide not to have children for various reasons.
Popularizing not having kids.
Just popularizing not having kids, but dinks as they call them, right? But also the other activities that have been popularized that may not produce children. So lots of things going on that all can contribute to this.
They're destroying the family unit. They've already destroyed a family in my family. I mean, one of my aunts, and just because of her political views, she's not talking to her daughters. Like they're in their mid-20s, and they are just so far off. They cannot talk to each other. I think it's gotten a little bit better. I need to get an update, but for freaking 6-7 years, one of the best moms in the world, one of the best families you've ever known, all growing up, they were that family. Like, how do they have it all together? They're so perfect. It never is that way, and they really are that perfect. But now they don't talk to each other because their views are so separate that they just can't handle each other. They can't do it. And I've talked about it many times. It bothers me. I'm sure you guys have that in your families too, where there's people that won't talk to each other. Or I told you my other aunt, she has friends of 40 years. They went 40 years in a row going and taking this trip and doing water painting together, the 4 or 5 of them. 40 years. Once one of them found out that my aunt voted for a certain person, she basically turned into an enemy, talked to all of the rest, and talked them out of being friends with her. Like, that's crazy. That's just disturbing to me. And I hope that after this, we'll have this like burst of positivity and everybody will stop the BS. People think it's already happening, but I don't know. Also, Dex, when you were talking about the birth rate, what happened after World War II? We had the boom, right? All the people coming home from the war. Watch this turn around overnight, which won't be it's not a good thing to have a world war to bring the birth rate up, but watch, it could be fixed. It could be fixed overnight with a background of Marvin Gaye, if you get my meaning, or your favorite music.
And flush with cash.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, diapers are expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, you make everything so expensive they can't live. It's pretty hard to say yes to a kid. And then Ukraine, Russia attack each other's Black Sea coast after latest round of peace talks. So, we both, Dex and I, knew when the peace talks were even talked about. We were calling this off air, like we knew this was BS. But we said when we covered the peace talks that these aren't going anywhere. And of course, right after, Ukraine and Russia launched air attacks on each other right after the freaking peace talks. The timing is obvious. They're not going to peace. They're not going to have peace. They are creating 4 times the ammunition than all of NATO. That includes the U.S. They are building up way more than what we are giving them, and they're in a stalemate right now, not moving very fast. So all of the ammunition that we're giving them, that all of the NATO is giving them, they're creating 4 times that when they don't need to. They're preparing for something massive. And again, they said they launched air attacks along each other's Black Sea coasts on Thursday, hours after brief talks between them failed and make any progress on steps that end the nearly 3.5-year war. The Black Sea strategy, the Turkey strategy that is coming out, this has a lot to do with what's about to happen. That Black Sea strategy wouldn't be around if they weren't planning for a bigger excursion. This whole thing that's about to happen, they're making it look like Russia's going to eventually go into Ukraine or even go around it and try to go to the back through Turkey or something. That's what they're talking about. Like, and I'm really wondering, is this going to happen at this point? But I'm not buying into anything. I'm going to wait and see. And then Dex, let's go over. We're going to be talking about the U.S. woman gets 8-year sentence for stealing identities to give to North Koreans. In just a second, I do want to remind you guys, make sure to go check out Jace if you don't have antibiotics at home. This is another thing. If we go to war with China, we're going to be screwed. China makes 90% of all of the antibiotics, all of them. And then they, of course, make 97% of all of the active pharmaceutical ingredients in them. Jace is a very simple service. You actually do a telehealth appointment with a board-certified doctor, and you can get a quick kit put together with all of the most commonly prescribed antibiotics, and they have an add-on list. So you're sitting there, you're looking at it and go, well, oh yeah, we have an asthmatic in the house. Can we also grab one of those? It's a board-certified doctor. They can ask you the appropriate questions, and then boom, it's thrown in there and then discreetly sent to your door. And then they have now the expert curated trauma kits. They have all sorts of awesome things over at Jace. So I highly, highly recommend, they just put those out. So make sure to go check those out. marfooglenews.com/Jace, and make sure to use the code MARF. Not only are you going to save money, but you're also going to save independent media, which is us. So thank you. Thank you, Blackbird 9707. Good job watching in Tasmania. Blackbird, I thought there was another name that was from Tasmania. It would be crazy to have two people in Tasmania watching, but thank you. Thank you. And lovely to see that. Thank you. And thank you for supporting Independent. Ilea, thank you for modding. JPass, Larry, Gatlin, Funny Doers International. Thanks to the members here. We've got at least 2 right there, 24 months. See her think, thank you so much. We have Stealth Mode on 12 months. Thank you so much. Laura Wilson, thank you. Jetrin Powers, Curb Creeper, and so many more. All right, let's go over. U.S. woman gets 8-year sentence for stealing identities to give to North Korean.
So you guys have probably heard, we've covered for months now about North Korea basically faking these job interviews and getting hired in all of these IT high-tech companies and different IT companies around the world for the most part, but mostly targeting Western nations, America specifically, but UK and others. And they're posing as remote workers, not saying that they're from North Korea and saying that they're, from the country that they're applying it, like the US. And they will get in and then, work and actually perform their jobs really well. But at the same time, they're either planting information, backdoors into systems, stealing information, or in some cases, even stealing money, or setting up, hacks where they can then, exploit the company for money. Matter of fact, I think there was a company here in Atlanta just the other day that was mentioned that got hit by having a whole bunch of these workers, didn't realize it, and lost over $1 million due to it. Well, this lady this U.S. woman is one of the people that was making that possible. So she was running a laptop farm. So a U.S. woman has been sent to prison for more than 8 years over an elaborate scheme to steal the identities of American workers and pass them to North Koreans. So Christina Chapman admitted to stealing the identities of 68 U.S. citizens, then helping foreign workers use those identities to pose as Americans and gain employment at over 300 separate companies. Investigators say a staggering scheme used the stolen identities to generate $17 million in funds that were sent back to North Korea. So that lady is now going to jail for 8 years. And
I'm assuming crypto? Yeah. Is that how they...
It all different ways. I don't know. Yeah, 300 different ways, 300 separate companies. So, but yeah, typically if it was a ransomware type scenario, then yeah, it would be that. But
well, so with something like that, with all of our adversaries having each country, North Korea has its signs that they are trying to not only infiltrate our company in certain places or country in certain places. You have, of course, China infiltrating everything. One thing we don't see too much of is Russia, like evidence of Russia actually here doing dirt. We've covered a few stories, but they are that few. And you look at the amount that we talk about China infiltrating us, How are not the the bulk of people going, China's trying to plan a takeover on us, or not even a takeover, chaos. It just seems very obvious which country is the most trusted, or maybe Russia's just so good they're not getting caught. I don't know. They say Russia does all the hacks, but they always do it through this group that they tell us that they know that it's funded by this, but we don't know. But we do know when they find these labs set up in California full of a certain type of scientists or something, or when you have physical people arrested on bases and things. I mean, that's more obvious. You don't hear too many of that, like a Russian guy was on the U.S. base. You can see their intent, right? They're doing very specific things. And it has been like that since 2019, like seeing a ton of weird stuff go on. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Do you disagree? Give me your opinion. Chuck E. Cheese employee in mouse costume arrested by TPD for credit card fraud. Man, so first of all, Chuck E. Cheese in handcuffs, that should like be illegal to have anywhere. Just like Mickey Mouse in handcuffs. Like, you don't want the little ones to see that. That's like, Tooth Fairy type of stuff. You can't have that image in their heads. Dex, what happened with Chuck E. Cheese? And it's very sad that these mice, they're also struggling too. These are mice that just want to live. They just want to get a bite of the cheese.
Exactly. Well, apparently the bite of the cheese in this case was someone else's cheese. It was someone else's credit card he had, and apparently they went in and asked if that was him. He said yes, and they wanted to speak to him and ask if he would go to another room or something like that. He then got antsy and started to get fidgety, and they decided, for the safety of everyone there and themselves included, to just put him in handcuffs immediately, as opposed to try to give a better image by allowing him to get out of the mascot uniform. So they put him in handcuffs and marched him right out the front door. And you could see the children in the background going, "What's going on to Chuck?"
I can't believe that they. Oh my God! And and because you can hide a lot of weapons.
Technically, he was resisting, and they didn't want a safety issue, especially with children around. So and the police said they don't have a rule in place about how to deal with a situation like this in a public, venue like that. It's up to the discretion.
Well, why wouldn't they take the damn helmet off? Just tell him to take off his helmet. Go into the manager room, take off the helmet, and then he's just wearing a purple shirt. Like, that's what I don't get. He's not wearing like a full giant suit like in my thumbnail, right? I mean, just take the damn hat off, but don't do it in front of the kids. If their argument was, oh, well, we don't want them to see that it's a mascot or a person, well, then 2 seconds later, you're arresting the mascot, and that's even worse. That's more traumatic. You're worried about them being traumatized because, oh my gosh, it's a human in there. You're like, oh, let's keep it on. And then arrest him, and then, oh my gosh, they're arresting Chuck E. Cheese. I don't know.
I imagine the brand is having a horror day today, having to deal with this one.
What the Chuck? Yeah.
I think it's CEC Entertainment, is Chuck E. Cheese Entertainment, what owns those companies or owns those locations. So yeah, they did make a statement saying they took care of the employee. They took appropriate actions, but they're aware of the event, and that's all they said.
Yeah, somewhat speechless. John Baldwin, by the way, I hope you're still here. Thank you so much for your support earlier. It looks like it was delayed on my end, so thank you. It just showed me that. Thank you. And then Blackbird again, thank you. Just nuts. Not a typical name has subscribed. Thank you so much for subscribing. I appreciate that. And then Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan just passed, and I didn't have the same reaction when a couple days ago, or yesterday, was it yesterday, Ozzy Osbourne passed? I saw people crying.
2 days ago.
Yeah, I saw people crying at the grocery store because they just found out. I actually saw a lot of his son Jack's paranormal store, like stuff like the Bigfoot, the alien stuff, the ghost stuff that Jack does. And Jack has done a couple things over the last couple years. I don't know if they knew he was getting close, but he did this world tour with his dad. even if I know a lot of people think he's evil, he's this, that. I'll just tell you my personal opinion. I watched a lot of the shows with his son and him, and they're funny together. The three of them with Sharon too, they're funny. They're entertaining. Just how they talk to it. They're like a dysfunctional family, but they care. I come from a dysfunctional family, so as far as watching them, I'm like, I wish I had that dysfunctional family. I don't know if any of you got that same feeling. But I did grow to like the Ozzy Jack Sharon thing, just because they were so funny together. A lot of people were torn up because he was extremely influential. Hulk Hogan is the king, and I'm sure somebody like Jacob Israel or Jacob's Ladder now, I wonder what symbolism is there, because now you have Hulk Hogan, kind of the king of wrestling. You've got Ozzy Osbourne, the king of heavy metal. And then you've got, I was going to say the Jamal thing. I said before, when Jamal and Ozzy perished, I said yesterday that it always happens in threes. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. With celebrity deaths, it seems like it's always three really big names that all die in the same kind of week. Dex, go ahead.
Oh yeah, you said what I was going to say. It happens in threes, and the fact that both of these guys are like the kings of their industry. They are the legends of their industry. And Hulk Hogan was, probably one of the biggest names. I grew up with Hulk Hogan, just like I grew up with Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath back in the day. And that was the beginning of, heavy, classic, hard rock and roll. The most influential, like you take every rock and roll band after them, and they all point back to the influences of, say, Sabbath or even Ozzy. So yeah, that's why it is so instrumental to the music industry, at least the rock and roll music industry. And just like Hulk Hogan will be to the wrestling world.
Yeah. I mean, who doesn't have snap into a Slim Jim burnt into their head? Oh no, that was not. That was, that was somebody else.
That's not. That's Randy Savage. I know.
Randy Savage.
Hulkamania.
And I don't know why. I just thought of the snap into the Slim Jim. And his slogan, Randy Savage, was 200 pounds of steel and sex appeal. Oh my gosh. I watched wrestling when I was a kid, but I knew it was, I was hurt when they said it was fake, or when people said it was fake. I was right in that time where I found it was fake right as I got into it, so I got out of it really quick. But I have friends that up until they're now, they were so into it, they did it themselves in backyards and heavy into it. They went to tons of shows. They traveled the country to go see stuff. Now they're making documentaries about how entertaining it is and how actually dangerous a lot of it is. I do remember back in the day when they had the Gravekeeper, or I forget who. Now other people are going to get offended. Gosh, the guy that would have fake blood coming out of his eyes, and he looked like a character off of Street Fighter. And they would do these really, really crazy things. He would put curses on people. That scared me when I was a kid. When I watched that, I really was scared that guy was evil, and I didn't like it. And I think that was partly why I didn't watch it. I forget what his name was. It wasn't the grave guy. It was
they're saying the Undertaker in chat.
Not the Undertaker, and I know the Undertaker.
And Gravedigger is the other one, but
I think it was Gravedigger, because
Gravedigger?
He had darker skin tone, and he had more of the shaman type thing. And it might have been shaman versus somebody. I remember one episode where he did a curse or something, and it creeped me out so bad. I was scared for days. My mom had to console me because I thought everybody was cursed and they were all going to perish. But yeah, things like that, people watching Jaws when they're kids. I watched Jaws when I was a kid. I can't swim in oceans. I mean, I can, and I've done it, but I don't like it. I actually had no problem in Mexico when there was actual stuff under me. When I don't know what's under me, and I'm sure a lot of you agree, it just freaks me out because of Jaws and Crocodile and other 80s and 90s movies that I watched that I don't think people should ever watch if they plan on learning how to swim after. But yeah, there's things like these people, these things that they're nostalgia. They bring back a time in your life. I'm sure there's a lot of folks here that were hardcore into wrestling, and it was a part of your life. You remember certain characters. You remember the programming that was on TV. I just talked about this other night with Jamal on the Cosby Show. It's like you remember so much programming from that time will bring back other memories, because our brains are constantly revamping and essentially deleting old memories and keeping the important ones. You can actually revamp, memories with shows from old times. Nick at Night and stuff, when you see certain shows, it brings back that time and period. I heard somebody else making comments about like Cartoon Planet and Animal Swim. I'm just totally blanking on it. The Adult Swim back in the day, or MTV. They had something that was called like Liquid Television or something. Dex, do you remember they had cartoons on MTV that were really creepy, like Eon Flux?
Yeah, I remember that. They ruined MTV. MTV was great when I was.
Oh, I know. They used to have music videos.
Yeah, like Headbangers Ball was awesome.
Yeah, and MTV News and everything else. They basically destroyed it. Even Beavis and Butthead had, music television on it. But yeah, it's like things like that bring you back to a part of life. And it's kind of a sad week right now. I know that people are actually bummed out about this. Even though people didn't directly know Hulk Hogan or didn't directly know Ozzy or didn't directly know Jamal. Jamal might be one of the people, regardless of how the Cosby situation handled out, that was something that was really instrumental in people's childhoods. That show, just like many shows used to have, they used to have morals, and there would be like kind of an end of the show thing where it was like, oh, well, maybe we shouldn't judge a book by its cover or this kind of thing. They used to actually have just hints of that in a lot of programming. Now it's like, oh, buy this toy at, Amazon, is just the main point of the show. It may not say it, but it's basically garbage and then ad. So yeah, and then we have U.S. building container vaults to deploy U.S. nuclear bombs to remote bases. Now, we talked about this over on Marfoogle News, so I won't go too deep into it, but this is kind of crazy because they're building these huge vaults to actually transfer the nukes to these areas where they want to keep them safe. And we talked about why they even need it in the first place if it's at a base. Well, these are remote bases. And my question is how remote are some of these bases? And if they're truly remote, what's the purpose of putting nukes there? Just to get them closer? Dex, do you know what I mean? Like, how close do they need the nukes? Why are they moving them in the first place? Don't we have nukes all over, within range of these guys?
Well, certainly, but we also refurbished the nukes, so we got to move them. And we've got a lot of new ones. There's the new initiative to build the newer nukes, the revamped versions of those. So that initiative, they're spending a lot of money and taking money from that program. I can't remember the name of that program, but they're taking money from it to rehab that 747 jumbo jet for our president that was given to him from the Middle East. So yeah, that I think may be one of the reasons. But obviously, the idea that you need to transport nukes from one location to another, it doesn't happen easily. Certainly, obviously, airborne nukes that load on planes, you can just load them on a plane and fly them there, right? But I think some of these other ones and other types of technology that they want to store in secret, they are looking for better ways of transporting them. And these containers look like containers on the outside. They look like any other truck going down the road.
Yeah, and that's the thing. When you see a truck driving by, isn't it kind of crazy that our freeways and our highways, we're going to see nukes drive by. We won't even know it. I'll show you one of the videos they show. I mean, like, it will be... I don't know if they put that for reference. It will literally just look like a big rig truck with an actual container on the back. And that's crazy to think about, that one of those that's driving by you, or it might be right next to you on the freeway, is containing a weapon of mass destruction. Think about that. Dex, if you're driving, to the grocery store, you might be next to a weapon of mass destruction. Oh, sorry, if I'm saying weapon, I should go weapon of mass destruction.
Followed by a whole bunch of cars that look very indiscreet government type vehicles that don't have any markings on them, with guys with sunglasses in them that are going to be tailing the front and back of these movements at all times.
Wow, look at that, a white Taurus, a white Ford Explorer. Wow, there's like 40 of them. Wow, that's so weird.
Yeah, but here's another thing. If they're putting in this high security vault, if you're an enemy, you're a state enemy. Like, nobody else is going to go after these things. They're making these obviously for security too. I wonder if they make it so you can't sense it either. Dex, think about this. Are they making this so that it's harder to detect? Like, what if this is also because they're moving around in places and they're putting them in containers?
It certainly could be. It certainly could be technology in there. This is all coming from, basically the same secret labs that build the nukes. It's their technology. They're building these containers, and we don't know exactly what's going on outside of the fact that they said they're updating the container systems in the vaults. But they certainly could be, designed in a way to help hide them. Obviously, that would be a very secure feature, so that they can't be detected from radar or other types of devices, so that people could sense or see. And that would give us a lot more stealth capability to move our nukes around with nobody knowing. And why do we need to do that at this point in time?
Well,
would that give us the ability to even move nukes, in a container on a ship to another country with nobody knowing?
Well, and that's how they did the spiderweb operation in Russia, right? Ukraine had multi of these containers. They pulled up and they had these tops that basically lifted off, and then the drones went and did their duty. Right after that, we saw a picture of the president on a tour of a base, and it showed a containerized weapon system. And then just a couple days ago, we actually had an update of what those systems are. They're defense systems going on those things. What if right now this is because they are doing something even bigger? It's part of the Golden Dome system, launchers that will be placed in inconspicuous areas that we don't even know. There'll be containers behind Walmart that end up lifting and launching nukes. I mean, it's just a thought, but I mean, the containers are everywhere. You don't even think about it.
Yeah, you remember we covered this isn't new. This is just new technology they're building. They've been transporting nukes in containers, because we covered. Remember the one we covered a while back where there was like military at a container that was moving nukes, and they couldn't understand. There was some sort of kerfuffle between, like, were they allowed to be there or something? You remember that? We covered it like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact story, but it was something. It was right outside a base, and everybody was making a big deal about it. There was some twist to it.
Rip Curl sent us pictures, I think, right?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, this has been going on. But the newer technology, the newer secure vaults, what's it for outside of just, are we just updating shipping containers? I don't think so. We're probably making them a little better for a reason.
And can some of these units fire them? I got to go to the picture. We talked about this on news. The guy to reporters made a fully 3D, this 3D model is awesome. They painted it. They did the interior and the exterior doors. They did everything. This guy's got to have toy, plane models at home, and then puts them in.
Printed it.
And if there's 40 reporters, do you think he was sitting there with the box going in and out, in and out, in and out, and like at least a couple 40-year-old dudes were like, I mean, it's kind of funny. He had to use this physical model. Like, it looks like something they were showing a group of kindergartners, like, this is what we're going to do. Why? Just tell them. Why would we even tell that anyways? This is these are nukes, top secret stuff. Why are we even seeing this? Is this messaging? Is this being put on purpose to as like a low key message to China? Like, hey, we've got these things all over. These might be going to your country. I don't know, but it is. It's a little worrying. And then with a lot of just stories about the nuclear bombs, the B-61s now in Europe at that certain base. Oh, and you know what this reminded me of is the base. Was it Edwards Air Force Base that one of the top guys is saying that he's preparing for a Pearl Harbor 2.0? Like, we're talking about the same day that that news came out, and the picture of him looking at the containerized weapon systems. That was the same day that the guy came out and said that he was he's preparing his base. His memos are going out. He's looking at a Pearl Harbor 2.0 type of thing. And then just a couple days after that, they arrested a Chinese gentleman or another gentleman, 2 people that were going into recruitment centers and they were spying around. You've got property bought right next to all of our bases, tied directly to the CCP. Like, what the hell's going on here? Maybe all of this EpiPen stuff, all of the presidential stuff, maybe it's all a sacrificial distraction so people don't realize, hey, something's going down. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. And then thank you. Again, Blackbird, John Baldwin, I appreciate your support. And thank you to everybody that supported the show. Thank you to all of the awesome people that visit us. Again, I would highly recommend going and checking out the Energy because there is a small batch. So again, if you do want an Energy Flex Tactical, this is the same one that just won the Army contract. You are getting the same unit. Again, go get them because the only reason we are not affiliated with Energy right now is because they're indefinitely on pause. All of you that have Energy Flex Tactiles, you probably waited 6 months for them, 8 months. Some of you had horrible 9-month waits. These are available. There's only a small batch. They're not doing that thing where they're sitting there selling it and waiting 9 months to get it. That's because these are the bad of the bad. They're water resistant, dust resistant, steel reinforced frame. These things are made to go on the back of a freaking Humvee. So if you want a tough solar generator that is front loaded, that there's no way for somebody to hack it or remotely turn it off, then you definitely want to go with this. That is the big worry. The only worry with solar generators that you're buying on Amazon or you're buying from these cheap companies. I would highly recommend going and looking at their business licensing, look at the what they're registered to. You will quickly find almost all of these ones, including some of them with America in their name or Patriot in the name. And I'm not talking about any specific one. Those are tied directly to China. So yeah, you save a few bucks, but what's the point? Because a lot of you are buying it for a power out situation. If we have a major like EMP thing or something like that, you want something like this that can be EMP protected with like an EMP shield and that isn't going to be turned off. All those people that saved a few bucks, when we go to war with China, what good is it if they turn it off? All right. And then make sure to go check out our mods over on marfuglenews.com/friends. Again, awesome people over there. You've got all of the awesome creators down there. So make sure to go support them. Dex, thank you so much for your service today. I appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
Thank you guys for staying until the end. Thank you, John Baldwin, and thank you, Blackbird. I appreciate both of you guys. Thank you. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. Echo for exaggeration.